Welcome in. You didn't find this by accident. This is the Whisper Lounge, a soft space for the conversations we weren't supposed to have. While you're here, you can leave a tip using the captivate.fm link in the show bio. And if you're ready, your complimentary 7-day exploration journal is waiting. Just head to whisperlounge.club/join to claim it and be one of the first to step inside to explore. Hey everyone! So this is kind of a little bit of a sequel. I have a bit of a 3-part series here. And last time we talked about sex as play, about how freeing it is when we allow sex to be light, curious, even silly, and how important that is for us as human beings. But what happens when that kind of freedom feels impossible? When sex becomes or is so serious, so loaded, that the idea of play feels naive or even dangerous and threatening. Why is that? What makes the stakes around sex so high? Why is it so hard to explore, to experiment, or to want something new, even inside a loving relationship? There's a show right now on Hulu called Dying for Sex, I believe. And the premise is this woman who is diagnosed terminally with cancer, and she realizes that she has so much about sex that she wants to explore. And the beginning of the show, she leaves her husband to do that. And I just think that's a fascinating premise. This woman wants to be wanted, wants to experience sex. She's about to die. It's one of the things she wants. Okay, maybe that's a little bit cliche or trendy or even kind of strange as a premise for a show, but what's fascinating to me is that the inevitability of she has to leave her husband to be able to do that. So let's name one of the big reasons why we have those assumptions, why it is so hard to explore. And one of those reasons, the big one, is possession. For a lot of us, sex isn't just sex. It's territory. It's proof. It's how we mark someone as ours. And it's how we fear being replaced. If your partner cheats, we don't usually ask, well, did they tell that person their secrets? Or did they buy them an expensive gift? No, we ask, did they sleep with them? Sex is where the betrayal lies. But why? Why is sex so uniquely tied to betrayal and possession? A lot of this is cultural inheritance. For centuries, especially in patriarchal systems, sexual exclusivity was how property was passed down. Control over a woman's sexuality meant control over paternity, inheritance, and even land and labor. Monogamy was not just about love, as we know, but it was about economics, and it was about control. And those scripts haven't disappeared. Those are scripts that have been learned so deeply and profoundly that we don't even recognize them anymore as outside information. They're part of who we are and how we operate in society. We still see sex as something to give or withhold, something that someone else can take. In that framework, sexual exploration outside the norm becomes dangerous. Not because it's wrong, necessarily, maybe, but because it threatens the whole system. So what happens when your sexual identity, expression, desire, and discovery has to happen with one person? Well, it can work if you're both equally adventurous, equally curious, equally open. But what if you're not? What if your partner isn't into the thing you want to try? Or it just doesn't turn them on? Or worse, what if it turns them off? Then what? Do you suppress that part of yourself? Maybe. Do you shame it? Do you pretend it's not there? Because if we can't explore outside and we're not allowed to explore inside, now where do we go? Sex is deeply personal. It's sensory, emotional, psychological, even spiritual. And yet, we barely talk about it. Not openly, not honestly. We treat sex like it's this side category in relationships, or like it's a part of a relationship instead of a part of ourselves. It's important, but not foundational. But it is foundational. It's one of the few spaces where we express ourselves in a raw, unfiltered way. When our sexuality is stifled, our entire sense of self can become muted. Our creativity dulls. Our confidence wanes. Our connection to our own body can shrink. And that's not just about having sex, it's about how we're allowed to have sex. There's a scene, or really a theme, in this series of fictional books. It's called Clan of the Cave Bear. That's always stuck with me. The books were written by Jane M. Auel. In this fictional prehistoric world, there are cultures that don't treat sex as possession. She writes a fictional story about the first human societies. And in some of these, or in the ones she wrote about, they're matriarchal or communal groups. And sex is actually a shared language. It's a part of daily life. It isn't bartered or traded. It isn't hidden or regulated. It's integrated. And sex doesn't define partners in this world, in this culture. As an example, you can choose to be monogamous in this series. You could choose to be monogamous with a partner, and that's your life partner, and still have sex with other partners. And in one of the scenes that I remember, which I thought was fascinating, was it was a rite of passage for the males in the culture, in the society, to be taught by trusted females of the tribes or of the groups in sex and in pleasure. And again, it was a place of honor for the females that were teaching the young boys, and it was a rite of passage for these young boys to go to these women and be taught. And they were taught how to give pleasure to a female and woman's body. And I loved all of the different kinds of pictures and frames of reference that she provides in that book that are so antithetical to what I know I'm familiar with and what I've always experienced and what I've seen in history, in my studies, and that sort of thing. It shows that people have sex to bond, to heal, to comfort, to celebrate. And yes, jealousy still exists, but it's not weaponized. It's something to understand, not to punish with. What would it look like if we lived in a world like that? One where sex was an experience, not a transaction, a shared connection, and not a badge of ownership. Now, some people hear that and get scared because, if anything goes, then nothing means anything. But that's not true. Freedom doesn't erase meaning. It reveals it. When sex is freely chosen, it becomes more honest, more intimate, more alive. The idea that exclusivity is the only way to share and ensure value, that's just fear dressed up as morality. I'm not saying monogamy is wrong. Please don't get me wrong. I in no way think that monogamy is wrong. I'm saying it doesn't work when it's built on fear. And I'm saying that if sex is play, it has to include curiosity, creativity, expression. And most of us were never taught how to explore our sexuality, let alone how to support a partner doing the same. So if you're sitting with a part of yourself that's never been voiced, never been explored, if you're craving something more, something different, but you don't know how to bring it up, you're not alone. There's nothing broken in you. There's nothing wrong with wanting to play. But it does mean rethinking what we were taught about sex, about love, about possession. And that's where we're going to go next. In the next episode, we'll ask, what happens when your sexual desires and curiosities don't fit the relationship you're in? Can you stay? Can you adapt? Can love really hold space for differences that big? Let's find out together. I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for being here. Tip the lounge or grab your free journal while it lasts at whisperlounge.club.